So hello everybody, I'm Ian and I'm the editor for Ever Ancient Never New. This is a program on WHYF, and today I'm going to go a little bit over about how I edit the program and how my part in this piece. So Mike Creevy, he's our host. He sets up the guests and he basically produces the program. We're going to be working on program 6Day2 today. And Mike has usually records ahead. So I'm going to, we store everything on a Google Drive. It just makes things a lot easier to share files because really we do this at a distance. Mike and I don't have to be in the same studio. We don't have to be even anywhere close to each other. He's in a different part of the state. I'm in a different part of the state. And we put the program together very simply as a collaborative effort between the two of us. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab these two files here, which is the recordings for the most recent file in most recent program, which is program number 62. I'm going to copy them over to my local drive. Now I usually have the program set up. I can continue copy. In fact, today I'm really considering I got to do 3 programs, but I got to do 2 programs so I can get caught up. We're working on this particular program, program number 62. So I edit everything that I do. Once I have the programs copied over, I can make that go away. I edit everything I have in Adobe Audition. Now, Adobe Audition is a great program. It's recommended. It's really, really an awesome piece of work. It does a lot of really good stuff. It's really cool. It's not my normal editing window. Is a little bit compressed for what I do. Normally I have a 3 monitor set up and I have all kinds of things going on. But just so you can see everything that's going on, I've set up this nice little editor window. The first thing I want to do though is I do want to get a new multi-track file. I have templates set up. One of the great things about Audition is I can set up a bunch of different templates. So I will set up some templates for the shows, so it makes it a lot quicker for me. So I'm going to save this in a particular template. At WHYF, we use a lot of automation. It helps keep the program running. So we want to make sure we don't have to have somebody constantly on the station managing or monitoring anything. The automation systems do everything. But that means we have to have things, certain naming conventions, certain things named a certain way so that we can edit, so that the automation computer knows which program to pick up for which time. So all I do is I just basically copy the last 2 weeks program and I bring it into Audition, and I'm going to just change the date. So this one's going to air on the 15th. This is segment 1. We're going to find my template for segment 1 and make sure everything's in place and click OK. And this is going to set up my segment 1, which is basically the music intro. So that's basically all that these are, is they just set up the music intro and also keep the length at 13 minutes. All of our, most of our programs are 13 minutes, and so that's how we want to set it up. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to this program. I'm going to pick up the segment 2 name. And we're going to do a new multi-track. Track session for segment 2. And again, changing the date to the air date. Make sure we're in the right folder. And we're going to pick our segment 2. And it's going to set me up with my files. So here we go. So we're set up here now for segment 1, for my basic templates for segment 1, segment 2. There's the intro for segment 2, very simply, easily done. I have all the fades set up and everything, so I just have to adjust things a little bit when I go to put them into the final program. Just makes it a lot easier for me and a lot quicker to finish the program. Especially sometimes if I'm on a time crunch, because my understanding is we all volunteer at the station. So that kind of goes, hey, we try to fit this in whenever we can. So we try to fit up as much. Now I have Mike record in AIF, or AIFF if you're in Apple. It's an Apple Audio interchange format. It is a very high quality uncompressed format. We don't want to compress. We don't want to do that just because it takes us to when you're working with audio. If you record in MP3s or anything like that and you start effecting it, you start adding effects, and any effect is a lot of different things. So an effect can be your basic, noise reduction, which I do a little bit of noise reduction on my show. I also do, but to compression, to anything like that. When you're compressing and you're limiting and you're trying to level out audio, any type of quality issues, any type of compression issues that came out with MP3, because it's a lossy compression, which means it loses data when you compress it. That data goes away. You can't bring it back. You can't recreate it. And it just doesn't, it really can impact your sound when you're working with the program. So I always recommend that you record in the highest possible, either uncompressed wave or AIF, and then edit from there and add all your things. If your final output, which you'll see today, our final output is actually an MP3 for the station, because that's really just going straight to air. That final output, whether it's an MP3 or not, is not going to be recompressed. So it's going to sound pretty decent. So we're going to go in here. The first thing that I do, as you'll see, this is a pretty big waveform, and this is one. This is the first minutes of the show here. We're going to take a look here at what we got. I usually play through a little bit first.
Good friend of the show, Bill Donahue, who is a curriculum specialist with the Theology of the Body Institute. And we're going to jump right into my interview with Bill, who really is an expert on this particular topic in this day and age. So I want to jump right in and make sure you check out parts 1 and part 2 of this interview with Bill Donahue. Okay. Bill Donahue, thank you so much for joining us again.
So you can see where we had a little bit of a transition in there, a little bit of a click in there. That's not bad. We're going to try to level this out. We're going to try to make it sound pretty similar so it has a good sound to it. Mike introduced this well, and that's fine. The first thing we need to do, though, is these are stereo clips. Doesn't matter for me whether it's stereo clips, but from a station standpoint, mono clips are just work so much better because really it's AM radio. We're not a stereo station. We don't broadcast in stereo. So we don't need to worry about, okay, do we have a right and a left channel? And mono actually takes up less space. So when you're talking about audio, space, just like video, audio space is everything. So when you're looking at audio and you actually have two stereo channels, that actually doubles the size of the file. So if you think about it, you actually have two channels that are essentially the same, that are doubling the size, unless you're doing true stereo recording where you have two mics and those types of things, and you're recording to separate channels, and then you're going to mix those channels together. This is all, but when you're looking at I do for the station, I use mono. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually take this, and really, Audition is really nice for this because it just drops it down to a mono file. I can close one of these. I'm not going to save that one because I don't need to, but I am going to save this one. So we're going to call it -1 is fine. Make sure we're in the right folder. We're going to go to we're going to browse to the correct folder. This is program 62. We don't need to worry about markers or other data, and we can save it. So I'm going to do the same thing with this segment, with segment 2. Actually, I can close this one file now. So I'm going to go to my edit. We're going to extract down to mono channels. We're going to close one. We don't need to save it. And we're going to save this one. Make sure everything's all set. We're going to knock off our markers and metadata, and we're going to drop it down. Oh, and there's the phone. So I do have a phone in my studio. When I'm recording, I usually turn it off, but since I forgot to turn it off today, it's going to ring all over the place. I'm just going to let it ring. It can go to voicemail. So I'm going to close this selected file. Someday I'll have to take that out, but I'm not going to worry about it today. It's one of those, it's one of those crazy things that happen. So we're going to go back to segment 1. Now, what you see here is this is a a pretty healthy waveform. Let's do a quick analysis on it. Scan selection. I do like to do a little bit of frequency analysis, just kind of see it's peaking. The ultimate peaks here are usually at minus 0.1, which is actually kind of hot for some of these peaks. But we're all going to make that all happy and snazzy. So, and I do that kind of to look to see where I'm at as far as how much I need to compress. But the first thing I do is I grab my waveform here. This is one of the great things about Audition that I love, is the spectral waveform here. The spectral analysis is actually a visual spectrum of the audio. And here's your hertz, kilohertz, and hertz, and all the way down. And it shows you some wonderful, wonderful pictures. You can see where your noise is. Now, one thing you notice that when
with Bill, who really is an expert on this particular topic in this day and age. So I want to jump right in and
that's pretty quiet, and you can tell it's pretty quiet. When we get into this section,
let me just for our audience here, I want
a little bit of room noise and everything like that, a little bit of echo there. So we know this is a different time because Mike introduced it as a different time. So one of the things we're going to do is we're going to find our space. Like here's a pretty good representation. This is our noise, and you can see we got nothing up here. We got a lot of noise down here. Not sure what that is. Because we're going to be compressing this and limiting it, and we're going to try to make it sound the best that we can make it sound, you're going to run into some issues when you start doing that if you have noise. So you want to try to take out noise, but not all the noise, just a little bit of the noise, so that it doesn't, if you take all the noise out completely, it sounds kind of dry, it sounds unnatural, it sounds weird. But if you take out some of the noise, it's going to take out that distracting noise. It's going to make the difference between the beginning, where we have very little noise, and this part where we have somewhat a little bit of noise. We're going to have to take it out. So the first thing we need to do, and again, the spectral analysis in Adobe Audition is awesome. I can sit here and I don't have to select that section. I can actually select just the noise. You see just right there where it clips off? We don't need to impact this. We just want to impact anything in this area. I might actually take this down a little bit more. You can see where it's not as dark in here. So there's just not anything there that might be a problem. But this is where we see a lot of this noise going on. So we're going to select that. We're going to go up to Effects. We're going to grab my noise. I use a process noise reduction. There's a lot of different noise reductions that you can use. A lot of people use, when you go up to Effects and After Effects, a lot of people use an adaptive noise reduction. I actually prefer process. Your normal process noise reduction effect that's built into Audition. It's a great effect. It does a great job. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually take this all the way down. What we're looking at is I captured the noise print. Okay. So let's clear this. So what I did was I actually just captured this section. That's my captured noise print. Okay. And what I do is I have the reduction set all the way down, and I sort of play through it. So we can hear that noise. You can see it's kind of peeking around, like maybe, you can't really tell for this section, but I really want to get it down into the minus 57s because I'm going to impact that, because I don't want to get it too dry. So I'm going to drop it down. See if I can get it down there. And I just listen to it this way. I just have it looping through until I get that noise sound exactly where I want it to be. So there it is. So we see a little bit of noise, but we're not taking it all out. But you can see that it's not going to be as loud as it was. And here's what the noise sounds like. Okay, so let's output that. Now what I'm going to do is stop this, and I'm going to select my entire thing, and I'm just going to apply it. And zoop, boom, done. See, all that noise is gone. So now let's hear it.
And we're going to jump right into my interview with Bill, who really is an expert on this particular topic in this day and age. So I want to jump right in and make sure you check out parts 1 and part 2 of this interview with Bill Donahue. Bill Donahue, thank you so much for joining us again on the Arranged Review Show.
Absolutely, Michael. My pleasure.
We've got a little bit of an audio change, mainly because it's a different location, different space. That's definitely okay. Mike introduced this. We knew it was it was something that happened in the past, so we're okay with that. So what we have now is we just have a really good sounding.
Again, to just kind of cue your listeners,
a little bit of hissy in there. I think what I want to do is I don't want to impact that hiss. I can see where it's at. I'm going to capture that as a noise print again. And you could, one of the things you want to be careful of, you don't want to keep dumping effects and effects and effects, but you want to be judicious about your effects. So I'm going to capture that, and you can see where that hits at now. Let's see. It's not that bad. I can take it down just a little. I think I just want to take that hiss out of there. It kind of bugs me. And I'm listening through headphones, so if you're not listening through headphones, you're probably not going to hear any of this. But I usually listen to headphones. I'm going to take this chunk out. Now I could do with the spectral. I could actually just select this all the way across, since I know I'm just impacting those frequencies, and that's all I want to hit, and literally just apply it there and knock that out without impacting any of the other audio. So you can see now we took that hiss away. Let's get ourselves in here.
Asexual.
Oh, beautiful.
Polyamorous, bondage, disciple, dominant, submission, sadism, masochism.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I'm going to save that quick because that just sounds really good now. We got rid of a lot of that noise.
Jump right into my interview with Bill, who really is an expert on this particular topic in this day and age. So I want to jump right in and make sure you check out parts 1 and part 2 of this interview with Bill Donahue. Bill Donahue, thank you so much for joining us again.
So you can see that right now we've got it down to where the noise is not so bad. It really is. We've really given it a good sound now. The sound is going to get a little bit better when we start working on that. I'm going to pause for a moment. I'm going to take the noise out of segment 2, and then we'll come right back. Okay, so I'm back. And this is segment. We're looking at working on segment 1. I took the noise out of segment 2. Like I said, you'll notice this is a pretty healthy waveform. There's a lot of things going on, but one of the issues is we have this mic recorded, or Mike recorded this, and these are two wildly different. There's a lot of wildly different volumes and things going on here. So we need to figure out how we're going to make this better and kind of even it out. What we're really looking for is a nice. It's going to look like a brick, hopefully, when I'm done. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to pull in some compression. So I'm going to go to my tube model compressor. I love this compressor. Some people use, again, you'll notice that there's a lot of different ones. There's multi-band compressors or single band compressors. There's a lot of things. To me, what I like to do, and the sound that I like really comes from the tube modeled compressor. It really has just a great sound, and it's very easy to set up and use. And that's one of the nice things. Now, what a compressor does is it's different from, it's not like we're compressing the file. What we're doing is we're taking these audio peaks and those valleys and peaks in the audio waveform, and we're going to even them out. You'll see that there's some peaks that go out. There's a lot of different peaks. There's a lot of dynamics in this, and so we want to bring those in. And we want to bring those into a nice even range. And the reason for that is if the dynamics are all over the place and they're all the way up and down, human beings get bored. Really, it's just that they lose interest. So keeping those peaks within and valleys in a certain range really does, it adds presence to your sound. Number one, it makes it sound so much better to the person's ear who's on the final end, but it also allows that person to focus on it and not lose interest in what your guests are saying. So what we're going to try to do here is we're going to bring this compressor in, and I have a reset default that just resets it. So the first thing we need to do is find our ratio. So we take our lowest area where we can see things are kind of peaking around, I'd say minus 18, and we take our loudest area and we're looking at a minus 6 maybe.
Those are college students coming on campus, Wesley University.
Yeah, I'd say minus 6. We're looking at really an average peak on this. So the difference between minus 18 and minus 6 is actually like 12. So we really want to take our softest portions and our loudest portions, and we want to have a ratio of 12. So I usually listen to this in a couple of different ways. You want to listen to a couple of different things. You want to listen to this.
It's a very complicated sort of topic, and one that we have to be very sensitive about, but that our faith really has a lot to say about. So I've invited to join you today on this.
Is I'm going to set once I've set my ratio, I leave my attack and release. Your attack is how quick the compressor comes in, and your release is how fast it lets go. So I set my attacks and releases because we're just dealing with voice, and I want it to be very short and a very short attack. I want it to clamp in very quickly and take a long time to release. So that's kind of how I want this to work. So I want it to clamp quick and take a long time to release on this voice. Music or something, so when you're using a compressor, when you're like an instrument, you might want that a drum or something like that, you might want that attack to take a little bit longer and then the release to be a little bit quicker, depending on what type of instrument you're affecting at that time or you want to improve the sound of. So these kind of things come back and forth. It all depends. There's no real, I've got to set my attack to this or my release to that. It really comes down to what works best at the time for what program you're recording. So my attacks are usually very quick and my releases are usually very long because I deal mainly with stuff for the radio station, which is just voice.
The show.
So we're going to go in here.
A good friend of the show, Bill Donahue, who's a curriculum specialist with the Theology of the Body Institute. And we're going to jump right into my interview with Bill, who really is an expert on this particular topic in this day and age. So I want to jump.
Actually, I'm going to change that ratio to a 10-to-1. I think a 10 is going to work a little bit better.
Jump right in and make sure you check out.
And now we're going to set our threshold.
This interview.
Now the threshold is when the compressor kicks in. So that's the decibel level that the threshold starts to kick in and starts to do its magic.
With
so
Bill
we're
Donahue.
Working on this. Now remember, I'm getting
Bill Donahue. Thank you so much for joining us again on the Ever Ancient Ever New Show.
What we're going to try to do.
Absolutely, Michael. My pleasure.
Well, and I wanted to just, this is such
a pull this into that 15.
It's a sensitive issue. It's a pertinent issue. It's a multifaceted issue. I don't even know if calling it an issue and like the singular is even all that accurate. To kind of see where we're at. Let me just, for our audience here, I want to start off with this little description that you sent to me as far as the description for the presentation that you've been doing on this topic, and
because we're going to we're trying to match these things out.
The Genesis of Gender: Rediscovering the Human Person, and then the description is as follows: Our culture continuously asks the question, "Who am I?" LGBTQIA. This long list of letters is an attempt to categorize those who feel constricted by the heteronormative binary of male/female. But what does it really mean to be a human person? You can see it's today? Kicking in. Can the ancient book of Genesis tell us anything about our own Genesis?
We're right around minus 18.
On solid ground in a world where our identity is connected.
So we're starting to get things the way we want. So we're going to wait until our guest kicks in here.
Our very lives and the health of our civilization may depend on the answer. So there's a lot obviously packed in there, but as far as where to
and you can see the difference
off. I mean, how,
in this section here.
Maybe just to ask you, how are things going on this front, or how has this sort of been developing over the last few years?
Yeah, boy. Well, I will say this, Mike. It's certainly for me as a teacher, educator in the realm of theology.
So you can see now as we've gone through this. Let's listen to this section a little bit.
Safe space for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, transsexual, queer, questioning, flexual, asexual, polyamorous bonds.
So again, what we've done here is we've done a great thing. So now we've taken and we're saying, boom, we got it exactly where we want it.
Welcome to the
When we listen, it's probably the cliff between.
And we're going to jump right into my interview with Bill, who really is an expert on this particular topic in this day and age. So I want to jump right in and make sure you check out parts 1 and part 2 of this interview with Bill Donahue. Bill Donahue, thank you so much for joining us again on the Ever Ancient Ever New Show.
What you noticed there was the cliff is not so bad now. The difference between Mike's introduction and this section here is not bad at all. It's that compressor just magically took that all in without doing a lot of work for us. So I really like where we're at there. The last thing that I have to set on this, though, is I have to set the output gain.
Well, and
I want to bring that gain back up. We took it down, but I want to bring that gain back up. So I'm going to sit here and play with the output gain a little bit. I want to watch that.
Say this, Mike.
I'm looking at my louder sections. I kind of want to. I usually try to pull this.
Teacher, educator in the realm of the theology of the body, it is definitely job security. I mean, you couldn't talk about a more prescient.
Okay, so that's usually where I want the output gain. I want the output gain to be around -6. Now, how does this impact Mike's beginning?
It's a very complicated sort of topic, and one that we have to be very sensitive about, but that our faith really has a lot to say about. So I've invited, join me today on the show, a good friend of the show, Bill Donahue, who is a curriculum specialist with.
Actually, let's take that just a little bit more here on the beginning. Maybe not.
Theology of the Body Institute, and we're going to jump right into my interview with Bill, who really is an expert on this particular topic in this day and age. So I want to jump right in and make sure you check out parts 1 and part 2 of this interview with Bill Donahue. Bill Donahue, thank you so much for joining us again on the Ever Ancient Ever New Show.
Absolutely, Michael. My pleasure.
Well, and I want.
So you see now where things are really
to just kind of cue your listeners into just how intense it's getting.
So we're gonna add that. We've added that 2 model compressor. The last thing that I add is when I'm looking at this is a hard limiter. Hard limiter is a type of compressor. Does kind of the same thing, but I hard limit to -6. That gives me a little bit of headroom in the sound. But it also gives me that nice brick wall, and it's going to take Mike up.
Curriculum specialist with the Theology of the Body Institute, and we're going to jump right into my interview with Bill, who really is an expert on this particular topic in this day and age. So I want to jump right in and make sure you check out parts 1 and part 2 of this interview with Bill Donahue. Bill Donahue, thank you so much for joining us again on the Ever Ancient.
So different now. It's really going to be a good sound. We're going to select everything, and we're just going to apply these 2 effects at the same time. One of the nice things about the effects rack, and boom, here it is. Here is our nice brick, what we call a brick waveform. The ending.
Strong relationships into our past, and into meeting people, especially the opposite sex, not with animosity, but with a sense.
Let's listen to the end a little bit. Make sure it doesn't.
Wonder.
You're listening to the Ever Ancient Ever New Show. I'm your host, Mike Creevy. We'll be back on the other side of this break to talk.
So we haven't lost any of the dynamics of the show. Things still have a good up and down dynamic.
Or thought, or through,
things sound a lot better.
Falling into right now in this discussion.
They do a lot more even as we listen to it.
Human identity, masculinity.
On solid ground in a world where our identity is connected to our sexuality, or is our humanity an ever-changing reality? Our very lives and the health of our civilization may depend on the answer. So there's a lot obviously packed in there, but as far as where to kick this off, I mean, maybe.
So that's where we are for segment 1. I'm going to take again another quick pause. Okay, so I'm back, and I finished segment 2. I got segment 2 all looking good. Nice little, what we call it. Remember, we're looking for that brick waveform that peaks out at -6 because I want to give that headroom for the station. I don't want to overdrive anything in the station and clamp it down. So now we're going to go back to our segments. So now we have everything together. It's just a matter at this point of dropping everything in. With segment 1, I kind of have a point where I like to come in. I'm going to clip that off just a little bit. Let's get in there a little bit. Move down. See where we're at. Now look, see, even though it looks like a brick on that wave, we're not looking at like totally like clipping everything off. Everything looks nice and pretty. When you go out, it looks like a brick, but when you go in, you can still see we have a lot of dynamics and everything in there, and there's a lot of good, nice dynamic sound, but it's not overly bad or overly, everything's in that nice, even, just, it's going to be great to listen to when we're done.
WHYF.com. I'm your host, Mike Creevy, and we got to jump right into this episode today. This is the first of a two-part episode called The Genesis of Gender. There are lots of headlines. There's lots of identities connected to our sexuality.
So we're sounding just pretty nice right now for the station. I'm going to go out to the end here. One of the things we want to do is usually we got to stay around. For the station, 13 minutes is our big thing. So we want to stay on 13 minutes. So I have these set up. I'm just going to drop them down a little bit. I usually look for a good wonder.
You're listening to the ever ancient.
Okay, so Mike's coming back there. So I'm going to drop it kind of down right here. Let's pick a thing. See if I can. We'll drop one in there. It's going to be our -0. Oops, dropped a bunch in there that I didn't need. So we'll just pop those out. Gone. Click. I need this to be at 0. I'll drop that down to 0 dB. We're kind of going to match this together so that we kind of just ramp that together. Let's see how.
The Genesis of Gender with our guest, Bill Donahue from the Theology of the Body Institute. Don't go away.
Not necessarily as happy with that as I'd like to be, as the way that ramps. So I'm going to try to bring that ramp a little bit in there, a little bit better. We could do
the Body Institute. Don't go away.
Perfect. So that's segment 1. All done. We finished. We'll just listen to it now.
Welcome to the ever ancient, ever new show here on Holy Family Radio, AM 720, 720 WHYF.com. I'm your host, Mike Creevy, and we got to jump right into.
Okay, we'll listen to the end.
Yes. So it's an invitation into healing, of our own hearts, of our own relationships into our past, and into meeting people, especially the opposite sex, not with animosity, but with a sense of wonder.
You're listening to the ever ancient, ever new show. I'm your host, Mike Creevy. We'll be back on the other side of this break to talk more about the genesis of gender with our guest, Bill Donahue from the Theology of the Body Institute. Don't go away.
Oh, that's just perfect. So again, you'll notice that there's not a lot of dynamic changes between the different segments. It seems to come in a little bit smooth, and the sound isn't as abrupt to change, and it just sounds really, really good. So that's really segment 1. The last thing I'm going to do is actually export my mix down. And what I'm going to do here is pick up my mix down here, and I'm going to package it for the station. So I'm going to package it as an MP3. And remember, we said MP3 is good for our on air and the station. Now I have a lot of different settings. We save it at 44.1. We use a fairly heavy compression just because that's the way it works. I don't worry about markers and other metadata. Just seems to work best for the station at this time. And that's it. I just hit OK, and it compresses it down. And there we go. We have a program. So that's a little bit about editing, ever ancient, ever new, what I do a little bit behind the scenes. I hope you enjoyed this video, and have a good day.